We need to build a little bit more flexibility. Okay, and I've got some ideas, at least allowing a special use permit for variance or something. You know, it's a scarce commodity, and there are a lot of places where you put parking. For example, Anderson, you've got one whole side of that lot against the conservation. There's no need for, you know, I think the Anderson lot additional landscaping will be not because of that. I don't know, it just seems to be. Well, it's parking is so hard, and it so constrains the college and the association. Yeah.
One of the challenges is there's the assumption that what we have is well put together. There's just no impact, we just change. And I think of the landscape thing out.
Hey, Angie, is
It's
this,
just,
how do I know if this is on?
where is it? It was.
I mean, it's recording, but I didn't push start
I know,
broadcasting.
and that's very obvious. There's also provision in that landscaping things that there's a change of ownership, then people have got to reapply with the parking. That's clearly aimed at college.
I didn't press start last time either.
Which I think we need to take out.
Nobody's there anyways.
Yeah. But other than that, a couple of other places I can do everything. Good.
Well, I'm hoping that all of this, when I produce, and then talk about, well, when we get to it.
Sally, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Adrian, Angie, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Late.
Well, wait, did you stay on up all night looking at all this stuff?
I have been up every night learning about this stuff. But I did. When I printed the packet, I didn't know I was going to be printing a reading.
Good morning, Mr. Dean, with Prairie Capper this morning.
With apologies,
You got your Davidson habit.
I do, but I have to leave them on. I was out cutting, pruning some rhododendron branches. Then on the bank of our house yesterday, and I slipped and hit my.
Oh, no.
There's a nice gash right here. And my wife and I cannot keep it, made a stupid bandage on the side of your hair. So I got a gauze pad, my hat holds it in place. So the college and everyone, I'm gonna leave it on. You don't want to see what it is.
I think Davidson has for allowed by ordinance anywhere.
That may be true. There's a lot of us here.
You see, maybe not so.
It was such a stupid thing. Right. This thought we got.
Really done.
It's not great things.
It's got to leave about 45. We'll move right on.
My son told me, he tried to get something that he said he did. That's a great school.
1967.
It's smallest one.
Is it not T-O-N?
It's just T.
That's what
It's very interesting.
Your spelling. Richard tells me it's put you on. Okay, let's come to order. Bill Roberts is not going on the meeting today. We're gonna come to order. Mason has to leave at 11:45, so I'm hoping we can push through this. Richard is on the phone, he's already insulted me once. So, Richard, we are now going to impose severe parking requirements. Just to let you know, my goal is that this is really the last time, except for a final review, when hopefully we'll go through on this page-by-page basis, because we should be at a point, I think, where except for some minor things and some stuff subject to things, we should be done with that, so we don't have to spend all these laborious hours just going back and checking things. If that's okay with us, I'm seeing that, except for some cleanup stuff at our next meeting on that sort of subject, I think we'll be done. We have a couple of sessions to talk about, but I'm hoping at least on the tedious part of it, we'll be done. So, I think what we should do is skip right to the review of the final draft changes, which is item 5. And as we get to them, talk about the setbacks and the conservation easement setback, and a couple other things. I know Dan has a couple of things, and Mason has a couple of things. And if we can just move right on through it, that would be great. So if someone would like to move the adoption of the agenda with that in mind, I will entertain such a motion.
Every time I stay up all night figuring out what I'm gonna say, it's in change it. I got to stay up another night. I'll approve amending the agenda.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, one right here, is it? You want it?
Yeah.
Right. Let's have a moment of silence. And as we head this over, let's ask for steadfastness and diligence in what we do this. The beauty of this place and its moving forward. Amen. Thank you all. Is there minutes for circulated from the July 28th meetings? Are there any corrections or additions? Would someone like to move the adoption?
I have just a couple of things on the sign thing, they're just technical. And now I'm searching for them.
Meaning the minutes?
The minutes. I'll send it to Angie, they're just technical.
Okay, with that in agreement, is there a motion to approve the? I move to approve the. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed. Thank you. Now, let's move straight to what Angie is going to do. I know some of you may have had more changes. Most of mine really focused around upper and lower case and adding.
You all in D or something?
We are.
Yeah. And then I think we need to talk a little bit more about the board adjustment. We just said it looked like a planning commission. So with that, let's just start with page 5. Anything on that page? What now?
But I'm not sure where you are, I don't think I'm looking at the final version, not the red one.
I'm on section 105.
Section 102 is the state.
Okay.
That was one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're in 102, next to the last line, people.
Yeah, I've already got it.
Yeah. It's 105. It didn't seem to me that Kirkland parks should be capitalized. That's a generic park. Not talking about it's a purpose park. So I think we have lowercase parks in the third one again. And I'm going to try to move quickly, so unless you have a difference, just say it. On the next page, it may be the way I'm set up, but I think as long as the title priority and precedence of ordinance, if that ends up in the right place, I'm not sure it's right here. Is it supposed to be 106 and then delete A, B, and C and put it all together as one paragraph? Is that the
I
intention?
think that's what the intent was.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so you don't need separate paragraphs in there.
That's how I have it.
106.
I'm looking at 106, priority and precedence of ordinance.
I have one paragraph.
Okay, I don't have.
That's the way it is on the clean copy.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll read it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking at the clean
And
copy.
it's actually all one paragraph on the clean copy. The red line just is very confusing. the way that-
Okay. Next on page, let's see, this will be number 108, same question. I think that's probably right, that should be one paragraph.
Well, it's actually two, but they're running together. One over here.
Yes,
It's not one, two separate things.
you're not none. So what you're saying is the second paragraph should be in all districts?
In the clean copy, the second paragraph begins with no building or land, something have to be used properly. And the first paragraph begins with subject to Article 10,
Okay,
but there is this paragraph, not one.
okay, without objection. Then the next sentence, which starts in all districts, I think there ought to be a comment for districts.
But that'd be in that second clean paragraph.
I got it.
In 109, it didn't seem to me that special use permits should be capitalized here. And you have special use permits and then special permits. Is there a distinction between them?
Mm-mm. I think the special permits has been taken out.
That should come out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Special use should be capitalized.
Well, we've defined it elsewhere, but it's okay with me if we leave it that way. I just question whether here it should be. But that's okay, we'll do it like this. Okay, going on with the definitions. 200,
200.6
200.6, okay?
says the word used or occupies. I think occupies would be occupied, that would be.
Okay. All right. Got that.
Which one is that?
200.6.
Okay.
It says the word used or occupies, as applied in that, I think it's to use or occupy.
Okay, without objection, going
You got
in.
that there? Yeah.
Anything else on that page? I'm going into buffer. It seems to me that use should not be capitalized, that's sort of a generic use. In the second one, buffer. Then the next page, I didn't have anything going over to dwelling unit.
I've got a minor one, community, well, you're at dwelling unit, I'm at community facilities. Where are the word library, delete the comma after libraries.
Where are you?
Community facilities such as libraries, delete comma,
Take the comma out of library.
so it would be such as libraries and community centers.
Okay.
Okay, moving over to dwelling unit.
I've got one,
Okay,
another one, deck. It's using the way this is worded, may be constructed of other materials, and then either freestanding or attached as building, act like that modifies that prior phrase, it should. So I think the comma should come out and insert, and which may be. So it should be, which may be constructed of any materials, which may be either freestanding or attached to a building.
I'm sorry, where are you?
The definition of deck, deck,
no labor structural platform, which may be, what would you say?
would be, which may be constructed of any materials, delete the comma and which may be.
Either freestanding,
Yeah.
Got that, Adrian?
Yep.
Okay, anything going down to dwelling unit, anything for that? It didn't seem to me that use should be capitalized there. Agreed. Dwelling unit accessory, I just had to check the sections, which we'll go back to. Easement, I didn't think the word use in the second line should be capitalized.
Let me just say, and go back and dwelling unit, Bill.
Yep.
The end of that first sentence, it says single-family residence. Single-family is not a defined term. Single-family dwelling is a defined term, but in that case where you just say single-family residence, single-family should not be capitalized.
See, mine reads separate residence for one family only.
This is for dwelling unit accessory.
What?
Dwelling,
Dwelling unit accessory, yes, I'm sorry.
Single, okay, so what do you want to say there?
Just single-family should not be capitalized.
Okay.
It's not a defined term, but the term single-family dwelling is a term, but not just single-family.
Without objection? Anything down to easement, lowercase use in the second line? I go pretty far.
Floor area net,
Where are you?
floor area net.
Got it?
End of the first line, and the clean copy has still got an A line. You see that? First line,
yep,
right at the very end of the line. It just needs to come out.
okay.
The word A was deleted, but it's still showing up as a correction on.
Okay, going down, all the way over to loading space.
I've got grocery store, second line, the word uses, I don't think should be capitalized.
Yes.
Well,
Grocery store. Uses. Same in root care facility, I think this category is uses, third one. Yeah. Strike that.
right next to that, the home occupation. I have a question, I have to go back and check it. First, 619, I just want to make sure that was correct site, and I can check myself.
Yeah, we'll need to check that, all the sites again,
I just want to make sure that.
not as a committee of the whole.
I just have a question. That's all right.
All right, loading space off street. It seems to me street should not be capitalized. Continuing on, all the way to the launch of the room.
And the same thing for a lot measurement as the rest, 606.
And we'll check all the sites.
I've got a lot of record, second line after county, up on the C, delete the comma.
After what now?
County,
Yep. Oh, good, okay.
and then the next line, manufactured home, use should not be capitalized.
Yep. You up with this, Adrian?
I am.
Okay, continuing over, don't just type in, I'm over to natural grade. It seems to me we're defining, what are the average of the natural grade elevations at the 4 points on the line, rear yard setback lines. I don't think yard should be capitalized, leave setback lines. What do we all do?
The yard seems to be capitalized a lot in this thing, and it should be, but
We do define it, so I guess it could be either way.
Where we are in front of
Yeah.
it. We define just yard.
yard is defined as is a noun, though here it's being used as an adjective. And that, for that reason, I don't think it should be capitalized.
I felt the same. And the same right below that. So we'll lowercase yard in both places. Okay, over to rentals, since we didn't deal with the rentals, I think we just strike that. After Richard's, and particularly Wade's very theological, forceful articulation of Jesus. Okay, I'm over to structure.
Well, you Brandon, I had a question about setback lines and reference, but we'll come back later.
Okay, we'll think all the structure, I think use should not be capitalized in the first one.
With you?
Construction, anything constructed or erected, the use of which use should not be capitalized. Continuing on over, there's some references to checking variance. I think I'm at the end of the definitions of those shopping.
Bear in mind that the spacing on zoning administrative zoning district is disclosed.
And the word use in the third line of zoning district should not be capitalized.
Okay, there we go. Okay, moving to administrative provisions. 302. It seemed to me that parking spaces in the third line is more generic.
There you go, sorry.
302, the certificate of zoning compliance required. It didn't seem to me that parking spaces should be capitalized. Then I'm on,
This is a big problem, conceptual matter. I don't know how you do this, but I noticed the spacing in some of the articles are different. You know, like this article 3, you got number 301 and whatever, the left line and right in line with the caption, there's article 1 is a little different. I just think that'll be consistent.
Yeah.
You just kind of get through it, just thumbing through it as you do it. I'm surprised it did that way. I think the formatting.
so you see that in 302.1, that left margin should be moved to the left.
Well, 302.1, I'm talking about 301 compared to like 101. You know, some of the articles are set up there.
Sure. Well, just like the 302 right above it, the margin for 302, 1.1 should be the same as 302.
So that's
No,
that line, yeah.
And right underneath section 9, that margin should be out. 302.2 margin. No, even if you can just take time to make this consistent.
302.1 needs to be lined up with 302.
No, I think 302.1
I think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's the 301, 302, 303 should be lined up, and the point 2 should be lined up again a little bit, and 302.21 is a bit left than what you did.
Okay.
I'm just saying they're set up differently in different articles.
All right, we'll just, I'll get with Amy and we'll make sure all of this. So hopefully we don't have to go back and do it. Okay, I'm all the way over to 306.2.
I think 302.15, utility, capital E should be utilities, I think. 1, subsection 5.
Oh, yeah, E on utility easements.
I think there should be all utilities come the right way.
I got you. On utilities. Okay, anything 302, 3?
I've got 302, there's just a space between the word development and proposal in the second line. That may be the red line program.
Where is that?
Second line of 302.4, long space between development and proposal looks like so.
Okay. You see that? Okay. All right, 303, 4, 5. Again, we'll check the cross references. 306, 306.2. I thought we agreed not to capitalize notice of violation. And that should come out of both of those places. Because we didn't define it, we never used it. I think you said it was never used anywhere else. And so we didn't think we needed to.
Next,
Okay. 306.2. Shouldn't it be in rather than or? Because if you go to the both of them, you both be under or.
yeah, I think so.
There's a citation that's going to be said. 2B, notice of violation. Lowercase. 309.
308.3. Sorry, we'll get to it.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, apologies, for exactly. Between subsection C and D is the space.
Got that, Amy?
308.3.
Mine are,
Subsection
mine are on two different pages, but I'll work on the formatting.
Subsection C and D are just kind of together in space.
There needs to be a space there. 309, this needed a little work.
Yeah,
In the first place, all 7 are not selected by the Board of Commissioners. So we need to change that sentence, unless we want to put down after the Buncombe County notifies of the appointment, then the board would actually select that person.
All 7 are appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
Period.
All 7 are appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
I didn't know if you-
All 7 are appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
Well, but one of them is appointed
Buncombe County.
by Buncombe County.
But they're still ultimately appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
That's
Then you need to make it clear that the quote, appointed by Buncombe County has to be ratified.
Well, what we said, instead of the word, instead of using the word appointment, 4 lines on the bottom, make that nomination. We should request a nomination. Nomination or recommendation. Yeah, and that was satisfied. Then, if the nomination is made during that period, the board will finish up on the vacancy. And I think that clears the whole thing.
and appointment, nomination in 2 places. That was it.
Yes. And that's the same, just making it up, the same language goes over in the zoning board. This is the same process.
Yes. 309, can I suggest a formatting? Let 309 just be planning and zoning commission only. And then what we have now is establishment of planning and zoning commission would become 309.1, and we'd have 309.2, 3, 4, 7. It would just be a separate paragraph that deals just with planning and zoning.
Just the time.
Yeah,
That's my thought.
I think that's a good change.
Yeah.
And
So
then
what's the
309
time, what's the time of the
Planning and zoning commission.
planning and zoning?
With no, with 309 would not have additional language, it would just be.
All 309 would say is planning and zoning commission. And what is currently 309 would become 309.1, same title, establishment of. And then 309.1, the current one says proceedings of planning and zoning commission stay the same, just become 309.2. 309.2 become 3, powers and duties. So, and then while we're still on that 309.3 deals with amendments. I would like to suggest that 309.3, 4, 5, 6 be combined with 310.9, which also deals with amendments, and have a separate, you can put a separate article on as far as I'm concerned, dealing solely with amendments to the ordinance.
That's fine, but you lost that. Mine, 309.3 says application procedure.
But 309. Current 309.1 will come to 309.2 will become 309.3. Right, 309.3.
Which mine is entitled application procedure.
That's what it's titled, but it's application for amendment request.
310.9 shouldn't be there because that's relevant. That's not relevant to the Board of Adjustment anyway. I think it's redundant.
Which one?
310.9.
Yeah, that was just random.
It doesn't flow because that's not relevant to the Board of Adjustment anyway.
I didn't take the time to try to combine them all and see if we need to reword it. It just.
I think that just needs to be deleted and we'll leave
10.9 will be deleted.
what's in.
310.9.
It's under the Board of Adjustment, these amendments.
Yeah.
And so 309.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 all deal with amendments to the ordinance. And I don't think it should be just right on the plan, and zoning almost needs to stand alone, separate. Article, and we're amending the whole
Well,
ordinance.
here is amendments to the zoning code.
But so 310.9, Board of Adjustment doesn't deal with amendments at all, so that just needs to be taken out. However you want to do the rest of it's fine, but the 310.9's
Just to leave it
irrelevant.
all together.
Yeah.
But does it have any language in it that might be applicable to?
I think it's the exact same language that's in the planning and zoning section. Yeah, yeah.
I'm a neighbor and I don't know if we've lost y'all, I'm sorry. Don't know about it.
Okay, well, I'm confused because 309, where we talked before, that's talking about not amendments to the ordinance. Is it, that's talking about amendments to the zoning map. That's not, these are not amendments to the ordinance.
Well, that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same.
That's the same thing.
It's the same process anyway.
Okay. All right, well, do you know what he wants to do, Andy?
Yeah, well, kinda. For the app, so starting at 309.3, which would now be 4, application procedure, right? You want to put that in a separate section.
I'm saying take 309.3, 309.4, 309.5, 309.6. You put them somewhere, I'm suggesting perhaps a new article, entitled amendments to ordinance. And then include all that underneath that article, number, whatever it's become. Title amendments to ordinance. I mean, it would be better under the section 3, article 3.
Is it here because these originate in the planning and zoning?
Yes.
So I think
I
that was
understand, and it will tie back into the language. I just think if somebody's wanting to look for an amendment to the ordinance or the maps or anything, will they know immediately to go to planning and zoning?
I see what you're saying.
I mean, they might stumble upon it, but if it's stand out alone as the caption amendments, then it'll tie back into planning and zoning. And in the under planning and zoning where it says powers and duties, one gets to amend. So it is in there.
So what if we didn't make a whole new article that we went after we got 310 becomes zoning board of adjustment? And then you talk about all
Make
this.
it 311.
And make this 311. You keep it in the same section.
I think that's what.
I have no problem with that. I said, where you put it, I think you all just saying that.
So it's right now. Okay. So you got that in all of that 309. Wow, it's new 4, new 5, new 6, new 7. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I got
That
it.
all becomes 311.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's go back into the substance of it. If you're okay with that. Sure. All right, that now. Okay, so leave using just the old numbers. In 309.3, which is now 4, amendment applications have to be filed at least 30 days prior to the planning zoning. I wondered if that was too much time required. I would suggest moving it to 15. Then you have to take into account in subparagraph 3 that the commission has got to review it within 30 days of the application. Well, that's the same exact time, the way it's structured now. So those ought to be different. It seems to be out within 60 days or 45 days. So that there's a little gap of time in there.
It's 30 days from the time the application is received versus 30 days.
Prior to the zoning commission's meeting.
So once it's in my hand, it has to be heard within 30 days. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud.
But I have to file it 30 days prior to the planning and zoning. At least 30 days.
So they would hear it at that next meeting.
It's because we have to notice it. So that gives the staff time to get the application
Right.
and send out the notices. 15 days isn't going to give us enough time to get that done. Because
Okay.
there's a window of 10 to 25 days that we
Okay.
have to send the notices out.
Well, I guess my question, do the numbers then work? So you have to file it 30 days before the meeting at which you'll be considered. I'm not sure that I would know when that meeting would be.
It's just because it gives staff time to process before the meeting, that 10 to
Should it
25
be
days.
prior to the scheduled planning? How do I know if I'm just sitting out here on the file of the amendment? When it's required to be filed? If I don't know that the planning and zoning commission's meeting is going to be on July 1st, how can I know to file it by June 2nd?
I mean, there's a adopted schedule of meetings for the planning board. That's the fourth Thursday of the month or something like that. So it need to be 30 days before that adopted schedule.
I guess we could say this 30 days prior to the planning and zoning commission's scheduled meeting.
I guess I asked the question, if somebody shows up and says they want to request a hearing or whatever, then you can say, well, the next meeting is only 18 days away, so it's scheduled for the following meeting, so you now file 30 days.
Okay.
40.
Sure. But it's still 30 days in advance.
Yeah, it's going to be at least.
Okay. Are y'all happy with that? I'm sure everybody's happy with that. Okay, over paragraph 3, on the next page, once the zoning administrator has received the complete application and all other pertinent materials necessary, blah, 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 he, she shall forward the application of other materials to the chair of the planning and zoning commission. Why don't we just say to the planning and zoning commission, the chair of which shall call for a meeting of the commission, and the chair of the meeting shall thereupon call for a meeting of the commission to review said application, period. Because you already,
Yeah, I'm going to, because actually says within 30 days, but
yeah. Which, you said application.
The reason there's a reference to days is because it has to be heard within a reasonable time. So I
Right.
think 30 days was the reasonable time that was chosen for Montreat.
Okay, so there's two different 30 days before the commission meeting and 30 days before, after the chair receives it. So, I guess that makes sense. If y'all are happy with it, maybe I'm just mistaken. And we just leave it like it is.
Yeah, I think it works the way it is, Bill, because it goes to the chair, if the chair's gonna have to call a special meeting. If there's not a regular meeting scheduled within 30 days.
Yeah.
Unless we want to call regular meetings for every 30 days, so I think it's better to just leave it with the chair.
Okay. So you may have to call a special meeting. Yeah. All right, continuing on. 309.41. Failure of the planning and zoning commission to submit recommendations within the 90-day period shall constitute a favorable recommendation. And then 2 says the planning and zoning commission shall provide a written recommendation. So you got a report of the planning and zoning commission containing its official recommendation in 1. Could we even need 2? Can 2 just come out? Is it really just redundant? Because the commission has got to file a report and its recommendation within 90 days after they meeting. And then that sense makes sense if you take out 2.
I think number 2 is in reference to changes to statute language of the written report from the planning commission being called a consistency statement that goes to the board of commissioners, which is required by statute. And I think that's probably was added to cover the consistency language.
Probably that's it, I agree with you, Adrian, but I think you can stick that in one or change to simply say the report prepared by the planning and zoning commission shall include, or shall address plan consistency.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving on, right above 3.9.5, at the end of that prior section. Second line from the end, members of the planning and zoning commission is not a matter involving, I think, 4 should come out. It's the second to last line of 3.9.4. 3.9.44. The or should come out, whatever that is. You see that?
I'm not with you.
Very last line.
Next one.
Member of the planning and zoning commission is not a matter involving the members of the financial. Right. That goes out.
Yep.
Okay, 3.9.5. At least 10 days notice of I think if we leave it like that, days should have a apostrophe after the S. So it's possessive. 10 days notice of time, place, the time and place of the period.
Can you tell me where you are again?
What now?
Can you tell me where you are?
I can't hear you.
Where are you?
3.9.5, fourth line. The sentence says at least 10 days. Days should have an apostrophe after it.
Okay.
And then notice the time and place of the hearing shall be posted in the paper of general circulation. Is there a paper? I guess the Black Mountain News and Citizen Times are circulation. Okay. That's presented that for me. In 309.6A, I'm just thinking of who gets notified. Notify all. If it affects fewer than 50 different properties and owners of land affected by the proposed changes, I'm not going to. I think that's fine. In the same. If B is okay. At the end of B, the last sentence, in addition. Oh, let me go back up. It says the advertisement shall not be less than 1/2 of a newspaper page in signs. Is that what we do?
It's statutory.
Good. Okay. In the last sentence, in addition to the published notice, the town shall post one or more prominent signs. Should sign be capitalized there?
No.
I don't think it should. Did we also have some conversation about putting it on the website, or is that something we just decided to leave it in your discretion because we didn't want to technical?
Is that last sentence in B intended to apply just to changes affecting at least 50 properties and not less than 50 properties? Or is that, should that be?
It's in the paragraph dealing with at least 50 different properties.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's C. At the public hearing, the Board of Commissioners may adopt the proposed change, reject, or refer the proposed change. You didn't say you say proposed change. So that would be reject or refer the proposed change back to the planning commission. Then D, the last sentence, action by the Board of Commissioners shall be considered official 7 days after the date change was approved, not accepted. The Board of Commissioners shall reconsider the commissioners and such changes for the same property. That's good, I get it. Dan may have one out, we should set this up the same way we set up the planning.
Yeah, there's nothing there with the zoning board of adjustment. Right, yeah, I suggest the same thing. Group 10, zoning board of adjustment, that's all it would say. Just the category.
I got you.
And then 310.1 would be authority of zoning board of adjustment. And it would be that paragraph that is now 310. And then, of course, at that point in 310.1, composition, and I would suggest adding of the zoning board of adjustment, to be consistent with what we did for the planning and zoning and zoning board. And then 310.3 would stay the same, renumbering 310.4, or 310.3 would stay the same. And these subparagraphs would be point 41 instead of point 31, where you get to appeals, and so forth.
And let me just, when you talk about the composition, you need to go back and use the same language that we did for the planning commission in terms of selection and nomination and stuff like that. You just follow that. Okay, Dan?
Yeah, and then it's sort of substance, but it's not too, I would suggest that in now the 310.41, current 310.31, appeals.
310.31.
Which will become 310.41 under a reformatted.
Yeah, okay.
In
310.31.
the fourth line, it says, see also 1203D in parentheses, I suggest deleting that. But adding at the end of that first sentence of appeals, which reads all questions arising, blah, 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 only on appeal from decision of the zoning administrator. I suggest inserting after the word administrator in accordance with the following procedures, period, which will be listed in this ABCD below.
Okay. And then we get it there.
Not quite. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
the first sentence in 310.31, current 310.31, which will change.
Yeah.
At the end of that sentence, right after the word administrator, delete the parenthetical that's there now.
Okay, I got that part.
Right, and then add these words in accordance with the following procedures. And continue on that.
I'm with you.
Okay, and the next sentence will stay the same. Decision, blah, 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 refers to, and then that next line, the last line, reading landowners, it says may provide constructive notice. I think that sentence should read landowners may be provided constructive notice by posting sign in court of that statute. And I look at the statute, that's what it talks about.
No, it's talking about, I'm not saying it makes any sense, but it says if a landowner posts on their property a sign that says they were aware of a decision being made, that can be their proof that this is the date they knew the decision happened. If they're trying to prove the 30-day time period between when the decision happened and when they appealed it, which is how much time they have to appeal it. Because we have to provide notice anyway, and that's explained in the procedures.
Well, and those procedures below, I was going to suggest adding that sentence to the end of the one about service. The sentence about service. How you notify zoning administration, give written notice to the owner that is subject to Sorry about my written notice, I did my personal delivery, it's currently electronic mail or first class. I'm suggesting adding that sentence at the end of this, because we already have 160.43. 12 o'clock the other night when my brain was busy, to say you can also provide constructive notice by posting on the property.
It's,
So I'm saying you can give actual notice by mail, by email,
we have to provide notice by posting on the property. That's required by law. That clause that you're talking about is in reference to the property owner posting their own property to say, I knew about this decision.
Where are y'all reading? I see where landowners we provide constructive notice, but where did you get in the mailing and all?
Well, that's down below on part B, but giving notice to the landowner. And I thought this sentence tied in with that.
And it might be the wrong, I need to check that statute reference too. It might be the wrong one because the numbers changed a little bit when they went from 168 to D. But I'll send you the language about the landowner posting their own property to make sure this is the right reference.
Are y'all in that in?
Yes, on that part, I still get some other things. Yes, on that part, about constructive notice or whether it's, I'm so confused as to whether it's the town giving constructive notice to the landowner or landowner providing some sort of notice, which is the way it reads, the landowners may provide. It just doesn't make sense to me that the landowner is providing constructive notice of a final binding determination by posting on their own property.
They don't have to. It's the way the statute is written for some reason. I don't know who decided it needed to be a law. They don't have to do that, but they have the option to do it if they want, if they're planning on appealing a decision by the zoning administrator.
So this is after the zoning.
It has to be a final binding determination, which means it's an actual permit. So they're posting their property to say, I know the permit, I received notice from the town on this day, and I'm posting my property to say I received notice from the town on this day because here's when the time starts for me to appeal their decision that I don't like.
And I'm not questioning you. I'm sure you're exactly right. I'm saying that is a crazy law. The landowner is posting on their property saying, I received notice from the town. I can't imagine anyone ever doing that.
Well, why don't we let you and Adrian work out this language?
And then, that's fine. I'll be glad to do that. And I suggest that, and then there's some other minor things. I would suggest reversing A to B. It just flows a little better. You get the notice first. Just a little minor stuff like that. Everything else, I think, is good. Yeah, I'll get that.
Okay, moving on over to what is 310.32 at the moment?
And we deleted 310.9. We're there now in that earlier discussion. What about
Where are we now?
310, current 310.9, talks about amendments.
Okay, before you get to there,
Oh, I thought.
310. This says 32.
Oh, yeah.
Variance.
Is that right? It's 32.
It's on page, actually, page 36, well, I think this is it. I don't think the use should be capitalized there in the third line. It should be one place. In A, also at the very end, underneath F, the existence of a non-conforming use of neighboring lands, which should not be capitalized.
Non-conforming use is a defined term. Capitalized the end.
Well, maybe we should, that's the way to fix it, is to capitalize non-conforming lead use capitalized.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do that. And then the same 2 lines down, the non-conforming use, capitalize all that. Got that in here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At the very end of that section, over the next page, right about page 3 is now 3.3. I don't think use should be capitalized there. This is any ordinance that regulates land use or development. I don't think use should be capitalized.
Good section, 310.
Right above where 310.33 starts. The next to last sentence says the board of adjustment may appeals to grant
Oh, yeah.
various The greatest land use and use.
Yeah, you should not. That's an adjective.
Okay, I'm over, well, jump in, I'm over to 310.51, notice of hearing. I just have to check the times to make sure that they're consistent. It's at least 10 days, but not more than 25 days prior to the day of the hearing. And that's what the owners and the 250 feet. So I guess that works. Okay, 310.7. Appeals from decisions. It seems to me this isn't a review, it's not an appeal, it's a review, as it goes to the court. So that should be review of decisions of the zoning board.
Appeal is what it's called.
What,
Appeal is what it's called. It's
in the statute?
yeah.
I withdraw.
And the first line says it's subject to review,
Yeah.
but then the next sentence it says may appeal.
Let's leave it.
So I guess you'll appeal or review.
Okay. In 310.9 amendments,
That's being deleted, that's what
that's coming in.
because it's covered in. That's comparative about, he says it's covered in.
Okay, so that takes us all the way over to Article 4, statute of decisions. Everybody else asleep except the three lawyers?
Anderson, yes.
Richard, are you still there?
Richard is.
Okay, I'm at 400, just making sure we did. I'm at 402.1. I think streets should not be capitalized there. Neither should alley. Neither should. Richard says he's still here. He's still waiting on the parking.
None of that needs to be capitalized. Streets.
Those are generic. Okay. What now?
Easements.
Yeah, that should be lowercase. Okay, over to the table, 500. And I didn't have anything to do with this, we had to change this. I had a question about the word use there, but I think it's correct in the capital.
I had the same question and agree.
On what? Okay. 501.3, C section. Well, again, we'll check the sites. What is article? There is no article 8 anymore. It's article 5. Or should it? Anyway, Adrian, we need to check those references. Regards all this. Again, R2.
Do you want to talk about the conservation easement setbacks?
Yes, let's do that. Remember that up. Remind us what we.
I don't think this language is correct either. I think I need to update that. In 501.83,
Yeah.
but we had talked about, we decided to ease the setbacks along the Woodland District, which would include the conservation easement. And we had some feedback from MRA about that, coming a possible liability for them. Should a tree fall from the conservation easement and you built your house 5 feet from it, So the thought was maybe we could add some language to rid them of any liability for this decision.
What Richard's concern was that if you move the setback within 5 feet, 10 feet, that if a tree was hanging over from the conservation easement, that he didn't want the MRA to be responsible for filling people's house. And where did we add conservation district in here?
Well, that is the Woodland District encompasses.
Which one is it? You give me, but remind me again, which one is the Black Creek?
That's the conservation district, but I'm referring to the easement,
It's where there's a conservation easement, it's everything north of the residential, everything uphill of the residential areas throughout the code.
that it runs along the border of corporate limits.
All the way up to the top of the ridge.
So we're saying
It's an easement that was, conservation easement that was given to the state by the MRO a number of years ago.
So we're saying people could, what we're proposing is that people could build closer.
Closer because they back up to the conservation easement. But Richard's concern is he doesn't want to be having to cut trees down or otherwise incur liability just because somebody's elected to build their home closer.
If I was reading this correctly, the only thing we've done is move like 5 feet from like 15 feet setback in order to permit a lot, right? We're just making it 10. So it's basically 5 feet. I mean, if you're using the woodland district and the conservation district is one and the same. And then even putting both of them in there, if we're trying to keep them together in some of these graphs in this section, to me, I mean, what we've done is this 5 feet difference, but we might want to put a policy in there where if a homeowner is concerned about a tree that's, coming over into his property from that conservation or woodland district, he's got some process of bringing it up to the MRA or who has that protected area.
That would be for the side yard, but the rear yard might be much more than 10 feet.
It could be.
And I do understand that too. I mean, the point is, I think has been proposed is to go from like 15 feet on a rear setback or side setback from 15 to 10. I don't know that this would necessarily change or
But
impact.
down, you're right on the side, but on the rear, if it's a 200-foot lot, 20% would be 40 feet.
So it'd be 35 feet. So you're taking 15
So
feet.
you're taking a substantial amount from the rear. You are from the side, you're right.
Okay.
The standard practice in Montreat has been that if you're worried about a tree in the adjacent, that if it's conservation, you seek permission from conservation for you to take the tree down.
Okay.
So there's nothing about them taking these trees down. For MRA, it would be appropriate, same thing, that you state in property owner who's concerned about trees in conservation area would be responsible for removing that tree with permission of the conservancy and so forth. But where you have the other way around is when it's in the town right of way.
Isn't that covered by the statutes anyway?
There's a North Carolina statute on tree removal, and it's you provide notice to your neighbor, and I don't recall it. There is a formal,
There is in Florida.
there is one in North Carolina too. And I looked it up, but it was 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Thoughts I have is one, somewhat responding to the way Alan's comment. Is one, Alan mentioned conservation district and conservation easement, all make sure we don't confuse the two. And it's very clear if we limit the setback in the conservation easement area, it doesn't impact the conservation district area. I don't want to make any confusion. That's point one. Second point is, could we put anything in our ordinance that would change the standard rules of liability and negligence in North Carolina? I don't think we could.
I don't think so.
I don't think we could allow people to build closer, but say, if Richard's tree falls on them, you won't be liable. I don't think we can serve
So I don't
those.
think I think you're right.
I think you're right.
Rules in our ordinance, I think the rules.
Okay, and it does, I mean, my other questions are just coming from the reading of what we have here, right, not necessarily, you can go deeper into the, North Carolina state law
I don't think we could override.
So,
well, I don't think we need to, it's just, I'm just trying to make sure we're compliant, but again, I think even in that section that we had just previously been discussing, where we lay out, residential areas in all these different places, there are gonna be some debate, but, these conservation areas and these woodland areas, and, there just needs to be either consistency or a breakout separately for that, so you can see that there.
I thought we decided we didn't want to do it on to the extent the conservation area was down here off the creek.
That's a district, as I understand.
So the conservation easement that we're referring to is the Woodland District. That is the Woodland
That's what
District.
I thought. So if we just put Woodland District, we're doing
Well, that conservation needs to line it all together.
Yeah. Right. And I think that
covers
covers
us.
us. And,
We've already done that, correct?
yes.
Okay, and I apologize if we have, because I kind of missed the last two sessions and stuff too, so that I didn't sorry cover, that was a question that come up on my meeting.
Well, let me ask a question in 501.9, which I think is where we're talking about. I don't see that we changed anything. It looks like it says 10 feet already.
I don't,
No, it's 20% of the mean lot depth.
yeah, I don't, did we,
But an exception if your rear yard abuts the Woodland District, then it's only 10 feet.
20%
501.9,
mean lot depth, provided you're on must, but this is not exceed 30 feet. 501.91, lots with rear yard abutting the district, 10 feet.
Yeah, that's,
So I think that was
that's.
supersede the 20%. You see what I mean? Why is there a distinction in 501.91?
5191, you would call an exception.
because every lot in that district doesn't abut the Woodland District.
Right, and I'm saying that for those that abut the Woodland District, it doesn't change anything.
For the side yard.
That's the rear yard.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong.
Yes, that 10 feet on both sides and rear.
Yeah, and that's what I was reading too, so I'm not sure.
I don't know that we're doing anything.
Well, but that the 10 feet rear yard wasn't in there before we started. It was
It
just
wasn't.
20, the way it read, at the beginning of time, at the beginning of this process was 20% of the mean lot depth. That was your rear yard. That rear yard.
And I thought we already decreased it. to 10 feet.
Okay, that's what we
It increased to 10 feet against the Woodland, that's right. And
Rear inside.
So the question is, do we want to leave that 10 feet exception?
And Richard is,
Richard has a concern about it. Yeah. What do we want to do? It's,
And that's the same for all three residential districts,
Yes.
correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Well-
Really,
let me ask you this, Adrian, as I understand the ordinance now, if someone, if someone has a lot up against the easement area with our conditional zoning ordinance, they can approve a smaller rear setback. And we're subject to whatever they negotiated at the time with the city,
Mm-hmm.
including a private waiver of liability that would be binding on that private landowner.
Yeah.
So we could delete this exception, 10-foot, 15-foot exception. Landowners would still have the flexibility to
seek a variance.
seek variance.
Is that
through
correct?
conditional zoning?
But the restrictions on variances,
It'll be two
No,
different
it wouldn't be
things.
variance, it'd be conditional zoning, so you wouldn't be slotted into the variance, that's the whole reason for the conditional zoning. Just pointing out, they could go the conditional zoning route to get the smaller rear yard setback. And as part of that process, could negotiate a waiver of liability against the MRA that would be binding on.
That don't make sense to me to put that in the document there.
Is there,
Make it easier, you could say that it could be 10 feet, conditioned upon, the waiver. And it only allows, the only place this comes in is you notify the owner of the conservation area that tree number 12, you're afraid of it, take it down, and then when they didn't do it, that's when they became liable. Normally,
I think that's what North Carolina law says.
it's the insurance company, when a tree falls on your house, the insurance company, takes care of it, not the landowners.
Well, assuming that the landowner may not have insurance, but as I understand the law, if I'm sitting there in my lot and a tree falls, I'm responsible for that. Unless I've gone and notified the owner next door that I don't like your tree, it's dangerous, then that.
That's right.
And I think that then would protect Richard, because the landowner upon whose house it falls is going to be ordinarily responsible for it unless that landowner has given notice to Richard.
It does put Richard in a position of having to go out and cut those trees to accommodate the landowner moving his house closer to the property.
You know, it raises an interesting question, is the purpose of setbacks to provide, to protect people from liability if trees fall, or it's, I mean,
I'm inclined to want to go ahead with the 10 feet.
essentially, to me, that Richard raised a question, with all due respect to you, Richard, if you're listening. I never thought of setbacks as coming into play with the trees falling on county property. Setbacks are used for aesthetics and making sure properties are not too close together and all kinds of things. I never thought about it. Natural liability of trees has been a factor.
I'm inclined to want to have this, go ahead and make the change to the 10 feet and let that come up as a policy decision which he wants to go to. He says he's listening. Does that mean you're taking names? All right, so can we just leave it like it is now, the 10 feet? We'll point out that there is some concern from the MRA about this, and we can speak to that to the council. All right?
All right.
Yes, and again, we'll just to go, come back around again, you said that the, basically woodland districts are the same as sort of the
It's the conservation.
conservation, okay, and so it's, I just didn't see anywhere where they were, where it was stated as such.
It's,
So people
You
know.
gotta look at the map.
yeah.
Okay. But again, if they're two different, you know, if you're reading it two different ways, because when you're getting back up to where it leads my property is, we're up to the conservation area, not necessarily the woodland, you know, if they're calling it that site. I mean, I just want to make sure that the terminology is understood.
Well, Adrian would know that.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Since, Bill,
No, Richard says this wouldn't apply to the entire town borders of the district. Only those bordering the woodland district, which is the conservation. Okay.
Bill, do you
Yes.
want to go ahead and do the corner lot discussion while Mason's still here, since he has to leave?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
What this is
It's,
your question about the
section 608.
608.
In the clean version, it's page 60.
608, double frontage lots. This requires you to have a minimum front yard on 2 of the streets, on both streets. And I think we talked about it, we took Tom's, we got to the end of it. Tom had a, worked out to be, you got a 30-foot setback on both sides. 608. Yeah, 608. 608.
Yeah.
On both Tennessee and on Assembly. That actually works out to a 70-foot setback from the pavement because the pavement is 40 feet inside the right of way. So what Adrian is going to suggest is that
Just a thought, if you look at 607, you have a front yard on one corner, this corner lot, so you have a front yard on one corner and 50% reduction on the other corner. You could do something like that for a double frontage lot, but you would have to define what front means. So I don't know if it makes any sense or not, it was just a thought.
Okay,
So if you're going along Assembly Drive and all those lots have a front yard setback of 30 feet on Assembly Drive, but they all also face Tennessee, they have another 30-foot setback on Tennessee. You could say the main corridor through town is the front yard. I don't know. Or you could leave it like it is. But it's a large area that you're taking, to call the setback for development.
Which road the house faces?
which road would, let's say Tom's house, does it face Assembly or does it face in the city? I think you could argue either way.
That was my thought too, but I'm not sure that's cut and dry.
You may have to enforce it. That may make it more comfortable.
And so if you do that now, then you get people starting to do different things, let's say.
I'm looking back at this corner lot, and I'm trying to understand what it's saying. It's saying any structure of corner lots comply with the minimum yard of the street which it faces.
Right.
Well, it faces both of the lots.
The front door would be the street it faces.
I guess Tom's front door faces Tennessee.
Well, he's got another door with a porch on the Assembly inside, the steps down.
I guess what I'm saying is, it's impossible to determine this on a double frontage, that we've created an impossible to determine on a corner too. Corner, we're allowing 50%. One or two. So it's the same issue. I think I agree with David, we got the same issue, either corner lots are to enforce.
Yeah.
And we got the same issue with both.
But particularly with this one, you're gonna have potential of inconsistencies. It's not claiming this is the front.
Yeah. A corner lot, you could decipher it. You have a site plan in front of you. You can decipher it's easier to figure out than it would be two opposite ends of parallel streets. Which one's the front?
Now, the owner can get a variance, which is what Tom did. And he was just saying he was sorry he had to go through the procedure again.
Sure.
But given where Montreat is, and its history and how it's developed, might be better to leave it.
I think we all believe
And
it.
just let it spend.
And we have, in addition to a variance, they can also go to the additional zoning. So I think they've got two options that just to try to change this, I think, the problems, the agreeable problems that we
That's
solve.
What's the last line of 608?
608.
The very last sentence. The minimum front yard on the other frontage or frontages may be reduced along the other streets in accordance with the side yard requirements of the zoning.
If it is also a corner lot.
In other words,
But we're talking about the whole frontage.
But if it has three streets,
I sort of got that situation with one of my lots, up the road where, right now, there's just a sort of right of way / driveway to a residence that's up above my property. And, yet there's platted, the road would come behind my property between the two sets of lots there, and I've also got a corner lot. So it makes for sort of.
Dan, I think you have to go back and read. It says on lots having frontage on more than two streets,
I see.
then you do it. So I think that.
I still guess I don't understand how a corner lot is not almost identical to double frontage lot as far as determining reasonable basis.
I'm not saying it's easy, but it's L-shaped. So one of them is going to have 50% reduction and the other one's going to be the front yard. You can base it on the front door, which is what usually happens. But if you have a heavily traveled street versus a side street, it's pretty, I mean, you can decipher that a little bit better. But if you have two completely parallel opposite ends of the house streets,
Can't you still determine which one's the front door there? Same as
You
the
can't
corner on.
determine house.
He has an address at Tennessee that in his front door is in Tennessee.
I don't know.
I always thought he had a back door, but it's in the front door. But what I'm saying is you could have the same issue if you had a corner lot and his little back porch was facing the side street. You'd have the exact same issue.
but on the other end of that, does it really matter if you're thinking about the main corridor of town? Do you want?
Did we cover most of it?
I don't think so, just the stuff I mentioned to you.
On the fence or not? It's.
Yeah, and I got one little thing I mentioned to you, just a technical.
Thanks for saying that.
If you're thinking about development, do you want to allow a setback reduction on Assembly Drive?
I think we leave it like it is.
Okay. You can tell us the way.
Huh?
You can tell us the way.
I'll tell you tomorrow while you're there. 6:09.
We jumped ahead. I think we need to go back to setbacks.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, I think we're through with 502, with R3. I didn't have anything. 503.8. 503.83 months with side yards. That should be a plural, yards. And then 503.9. Yards should be capitalized there. Next thing I have is over to 506, Woodland District. And 506.1, just the sentence needs some correction. The zoning district is established for agricultural uses, comma, including but not limited to, comma. And take the comma out after including. Okay. 509, Conservation District 509.1. I think parks should not be capitalized there. That's generic. And I'm over to 511 at this point. All right, so that's all, everybody with me? Good. Okay, 511. I guess I didn't have any changes on that. The development provision. I'm over to 600.1. And I think that should be no part of a yard. All streets should not be capitalized. There, Megan. In the same 3 lines down, on street parking. The last paragraph of 602. Street should not be capitalized in either of the 3 places. 606.1. 606.1 subparagraph 2. I don't think uses should be capitalized there. And in 3, accessory home is larger than 600 square feet, including its outside coverage exceeding 10 feet in height, and each line shall only, insert the word only be permitted.
And delete only at the end.
606.1 subparagraph 3. And then 4, right below that, I think, well, I changed my mind. Accessory buildings or uses must meet the minimum setbacks. I think those stay. And over
606.4, we get to, I'm not sure.
606 point. I'm missing that page. You will get to the
606.4, original accommodations, and the second line refers to 612.1. I think it should be 606.1. Check on the site, but I'm confident that's what it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Mhm.
And then, 606.4, so paragraph 3, same section, just needs a period.
Okay.
anything else?
I'm down to 612.
Move to 6. Well, the regulations for technical slopes. What is your 612?
I'll get to it. It's just needs a period in the paragraph.
At the end of the paragraph, a period.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, we're going to come back way to the drainage and fill. What's that? So, but that will be after we submit this. All right, I'm over to 618.1. Mason had just a couple minor changes, which I think Amy is going to pick up. And Mason came in this morning and suggested it says that if the property changes hands, you've got to change your, is that right? I don't know. Maybe we just come back and pick up that, because I don't. What now?
What was that in reference to, with the property change?
Fences, it said that. Let me see if I can. He sent an email with some minor corrections, which Adrian has.
And that was in reference to the fences though, or
I'm trying to remember, the minute I home.
just asking that you know?
So I don't see anything that says that. Let's see. So I don't see what he was talking about, so I think we just want to let him finish that and come back. Okay.
619, I guess.
Where are you?
619.
Okay. 619.
It's very minor. It's just not formatted correctly. It should go all the way back to the left margin. You can indent it. The wording, the line up like all of paragraph 617 and so forth.
You mean 619A?
But just the main part of 619. Regulations for special use permits.
Oh, that should go back out.
So it goes all the way back to margin. 619 should stand out. Just like 619.1, the line, paragraph accessory line up caption, not with the margin part.
Okay. All right.
619.3.
619. Okay.
Subparagraph I.
Okay, that's the very last one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it refers to subsection H.
Okay.
Next to the last line, that should be to G.
Where is this?
Subparagraph I, under 619.
Oh, shoot.
And next to the last line,
Oh, I thought you were talking about that. That should be G.
yeah, where it says the reason set forth in subsection E.
Okay.
I think that should be G.
Did we talk about the burden of persuasion and we mean the burden of proof? Was that,
We didn't talk about it, but that's,
maybe we didn't change it? Okay.
I don't remember talking about it.
Nobody said any problems with it. Okay. I had a question, 619.4. Is that, I got, it used to be 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8. Separate paragraphs, so all those will get consolidated or that's instead of one paragraph.
I'm not following you.
In 619.4 conditions, after the first paragraph, then we go to a 2.4.
The clean version doesn't have that.
Okay, so
It's all one, it's all,
Numbered paragraphs, it's all unnumbered paragraphs.
it's an unnumbered paragraph. Is it going to be one paragraph or separate?
they're separate now, but whatever you want to do.
They're separate and see if we don't have any.
Okay, well, let's just leave them like they are. Okay, I'm over to 621.3.
620, before you get to that,
Okay.
just the caption should be accessory dwelling unit. Delete the S in the caption.
Okay.
And 620.1 is this indented too far to the right, so you move back to the left, just didn't mention the formatting 620.1. But then underneath 620.1, in sections 3, 4, 5, and 8, the reference should be to accessory dwelling unit in every place, capitalized. 3 says accessory structures, 4 says accessory dwelling, 5 says accessory dwelling. Every place that is shows up is in section 3, 4, 5, 8. Those terms need to be the same, all capital accessory dwelling unit in every place.
Just to delete the plural in the title, because we talk about those as a category. They all could be different. So you're talking about all accessory dwelling units. I've got to do all.
Well, everywhere else, it's not capitalized anywhere else, but that's fine. In the next sentence right after, that's the purpose of an accessory dwelling unit is.
I think that,
I mean, it's, but I do think all those terms need to be changed, all those subparagraphs. We're using a lot of different terms in there, some capital, some not capitalized. I think the consistency of accessory dwelling unit.
okay, over to 621.3.
621.1, 2, and 3 again are indentation.
You're talking about 620.1.
621, all the subparagraphs should be moved to the left to line up like on the section.
In 621.3, I don't think visible should be capitalized. That point. And I don't think sign should be capitalized there. That's a generic. Okay, over to Article 7, parking. Again, we'll pick up the cross references.
The very last line of section 700.
Yep.
And the second paragraph, all the way to the very end. Increases in net floor area should be not.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else there? Okay, over to
701 in the clean copy in the 4th and 6th lines. There are 3 different little random underlines in there. You know, see.
Yeah.
701.
I see the last one. I don't see the 4th line.
There's 1 in the 3rd, 4th line, after above or between above and entrances, and then the very last line, there's one between nevertheless and B, one between B and conform.
I don't think my version,
It's
I
the
think I
last
got
line on page 73, not the last line in the paragraph.
yeah, I got that one, but I don't see the other 2. I don't think it's on my version for some
she
reason.
doesn't have the other one.
Okay.
I don't see them.
Between nevertheless and B in conformity. You don't have much time. It shows up on
I don't know where you are.
701, the last line.
Yeah. To be conformed, it looks like that underline
I'm showing line number.
there. Well, just make sure that that's grammatical. Okay. All right, I'm through, on 702.
All these formatting is off in all 701 points.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll check that. I'm over to the end of 707, we'll go through that.
705 and some other problems too. It's formatting issues.
Okay, you got that, Eddie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So,
so we're over to 800, 801.
The whole, yeah, I think we bring this up, but I think all the organized too. The 801, 802, they're intended to warrant, should be able to let warrant.
I'll fix all that.
Consistent with all of it.
Okay. All right, I've got in.
Oh, I know, I'm sorry, I had one other thing.
Okay,
It's more substantive than that. Section 801 should be section 800. I don't think that
Yeah, I was
changed
just
the
thinking
last-
that too.
yeah,
So that would change, all the substances would change too.
actually, it already is that, except for it says general regulations, since 802, but then it says 801.1, 801.2.
Yeah. Purpose should be 800, general regulation should be 801. So,
Then the rest of it.
yeah, right, that's all.
All right, over to 801.9. Penalties for these requirements,
Where are you?
801.92, sorry.
There.
I said
Will become 801, yes.
Yeah. 801.92. Penalties, blah, 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 are specified in it. I was going to change that to describe if it specifies correct, so. 802.9. I don't think sign should be capitalized there.
My numbers are way off. What's
I
the,
know the numbers are off. It jumps from 801.95 to 803. That just needs to be changed, right?
This is 880. Right above it, all the numbers.
Yeah, there.
802, 802.2, 802.3,
They
802.4.
start out at 800. Okay.
I'll fix it, but where are you?
I found what actually was 82.4.
What's the title?
Off premises advertising signs.
I'm sitting there to find clean that.
It follows prohibited, it's in the section called prohibited signs. It's the fourth subsection.
Okay.
I don't think signs should be capitalized there. Nor do I in the next section, in 2.5, flashing devices, that ought to be back. The margin is not right.
Yeah, it's all off. I'll fix it.
Standard 2.6, moving the signs should not be capitalized. 6.7, neither of those signs should be capitalized. 0.8, those signs shouldn't be capitalized. Foreign signs, that should not be capitalized. Blue signs, that should not be capitalized. Either of those signs should not be capitalized. And the following sign is not permitted. That sign should not be capitalized. Exempt signs, the following signs, I think, should not be capitalized. I think all of this is okay, except Dan had a comment on the description of the banner. So, that's over in, well, let me get 806, first temporary signs allowed in all districts. The word welcome, you're into that, this is on the welcome wall. I think the welcome should have quotes around it.
I'm not with you.
It says temporary signs allowed in all zoning districts. My number is 806. First of all, in that section, signs should be not capitalized in every case. And then the word welcome should have quotation marks on it. Okay, over to 808.
I'm trying to find out whether, some of it's 804.9, I can't find it. 804.9. That by information included on temporary signs.
804.9 I have is called temporary special public use.
Somewhere I did insert the word including before meeting dates on the third line. Well, I said, yes, 805.9. Temporary special event. Signs provided letters of events or gathering specials to the public. To be including meeting dates and locations.
That's why I think including needs to be in there, I think you're right.
Yeah. Including meeting dates and locations.
Got that? Amy? Okay, I'm 806, you got the 806 stuff?
Mhm.
Now, 808, utility banners. I think you updated this from what I have, the word district should be area in the title, did you get that?
But it is the overlay district. It's on the zoning map.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, well, then Dan had a suggestion. What was it, Dan, about the size of 28
You know what section is that? I can't find
809.
it. 808.
Anyway,
809.
My numbers are off, so don't listen to me.
Yeah, it is 809. I was looking at the little printed out one earlier. 809. When it gets down there, hopefully anybody will join on this. It says the maximum size of each banner shall be 28.5 inches in width by 6 feet in length. My guess is that that's probably the exact size of the sign that the college intended to use, which is why there's the maximum. 28.5 seems kind of random and strange and arbitrary to me. Might have about 30 something.
okay, I'm all the way over. Again, we've got some margins and indenting and all of that.
References and numberings.
What?
Once you change all those numberings that we talked about, there's some references back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
I had something on 806.7. That's,
So I think my red one is just
one of the wall signs.
wall signs, okay, I see that.
And it gets down to, let's see. First, something else. Wall sign. Sorry.
Could it be a reference to the approximately 23 feet by 7, which is different than?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I got reference to, it should be 805.2, but they're gonna change anyway.
It says there's a reference to section 1005.2, which is probably zoning district set forth in section 1005.2, which was the previous sign ordinance. So that's the wrong reference.
And 806.7.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have anything else. 811.4.
Signs. My 811.4, this,
811.4. It says all 11.9.
yeah, I got it.
Where are y'all reading?
811.4.
It's the last section of nonconformities.
I don't have it.
Yeah, I've got it.
It's not in the most updated.
811 is on the signs,
Okay, mine's 18.
Okay.
and 810.4, first line, the word signs is misspelled. Yes. It's all non-conforming.
Oh, I see. That's right, okay, yeah. Nice, you said, well, did you see that? Okay, anything else?
It's, this is just very picky too, but under 900.4, this is under landscaping.
Okay.
And you got sub-area 900.4.1, is that correct? It's 900.41 and 42 and 43.
Probably the latter.
I think that's what we've done. 4.2, 4.3, 43.
4, 5, 6, okay. Right. Anything else?
In order 10.
Where are you?
Last unnumbered paragraph in 1,000.4.
1,004.
There's an A, B, and a C under it. And then you have this unnumbered paragraph beginning in non-conforming, that should be D.
Okay.
Got it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll go back, we'll make sure visually is okay. So, let's see.
90 is taken on, what was it, for just thing, kind of, I'll reword it.
So I think we've as we walk through, we considered front yard setbacks, and the conservation easement setback reduction, we talked about this. So I think we've finished our work with this, and now we've gone through this. I'll get with Adrian during the week, and will, and Mason will. We'll meet in 2 weeks, and hopefully that will be it. And we will then present this to the council. We also, we're going to recommend that they make a new zoning district out of the ETD, CJ, whatever it's called.
TJ.
ETJ. New zoning district there.
Crawford and Burns subdivision.
And then, I'll go back and see my notes, but we were going to recommend some general things. But we didn't have many of those. That was the major one that we had. You don't think of anything else?
Yeah, so front yard setbacks, we redid the agenda, so we didn't get to front yard setbacks.
Yes, we did. We talked about it. Double.
On the double, but not the basic issue front yard setback. That's what I had lost 7 nights sleep on, and I had King's speech prepared.
Okay.
But the front yard setbacks is something that we talked about. It had a certain minimum, sort of backed off, and we thought we're okay. We sort of leaving it alone.
Yeah, I thought that we did listen, and we decided to leave it like they were.
Correct, which I understand and disagree with, but and I did have something to say on it. And I don't think you can do that in the meeting too well, but so I just want to skip to this. We all look at these things through our own lens, experiences, and so forth. And when I suggested to everyone a year ago, walk all the streets and tell me what house you put a red tag on, you know, fences and so forth. And I talked about the fact that this was a tapestry of ins and outs and pretty successful. Well, that was my area of expertise and career and so forth, and pretty significant. But then I've got this, let's just keep it real simple. We generally, as cottagers, don't like the idea of the setback next door to us being changed. Next door, I'll drop it. Next door to us being changed. And the setback, I think, that people are concerned about is the side yard. It's how much separation you have. And so what I've run into is that I think we have a difference of perspective that I have. It's my area of expertise, so I'm more stubborn about it, turn it loose. I haven't seen a way to get around it. From my beginning 56 years ago, understanding space of a first year architecture, all the way up through age 53, I was doing what I call architecture between the buildings. So this was my area, and I don't see where these front yard reductions would hurt this community. In fact, would help. So two things. Sometimes this reduces something simple. We know most of our lots are developed.
Lots are what?
Are developed.
Okay.
The lots that remain, in many cases, can't be developed because of the front yard setback and the topography. And sometimes if you've got every spot of grass in Black Mountain's got a house under construction on it. And we're not doing that here because of these lots being restricted if you're trying to maintain a 30-foot setback. And maybe the 30-foot setback ought to have another look. So the only way that I could think to address that is what happened in my career at age 53, when I accepted a challenge from President Carter to come up with an innovation for homeless housing. And received 50 railroad cars donated and old Chevrolet plant to figure something out. I had 28 agencies dealing with homeless. We had all the neighborhoods with their thoughts about welcoming homeless and zoning and so forth. But Jimmy Carter had a collaboration facility that came from a $1 million donation from IBM, where you go in for conflict resolution, but basically resolution of conflicting views. And I had this thing 5 years. Didn't spend more than an hour and a half with the president in that time, but I learned a lot. And here's how it worked and how it would apply to us right now. He asked that the folks who had some differences come into this facility and agree upon the following. He would say, ask that you accept that what is true for one group in here is true for that group. And we ask them to accept that what is true for you, the other group, is true for you. And we ask that neither of you spend any energy in this facility trying to change what is true for the other. Merely, given what you believe and what you believe, what is it that you both could believe? Arab, Israeli, never come together, but they could agree they didn't want children having their legs blown off of landmines. I think that it is the majority sense in this room that we would like to protect
the value of our homes and the joy of them with the separations as worked out for us. And I think that's true. But then in my King's speech last when I talked about that these lots that haven't been developed were lots that were platted from land purchased with tithes of the church for purposes of the church. And that the folks who want to be here that can't be here because of our ordinances and the setbacks going up, they may be involving other people who can't be in the room because they don't have the lot or they're not here to argue their case. And so I would make this case that it is true, we generally would prefer to keep our setbacks as strict as possible for our own personal interests. I think it might also be true that we might recognize that the people who aren't here maybe should have the opportunity to be here. And because the 30-foot setback, and I've asked us to go out to Maryland, go out to South Carolina Terrace and so forth, and just visualize how in the world you're supposed to build when the mountain falls off like this or climbs like this. And that it might be that this other group is merely saying, we sure would like to be able to live here, like we're fortunate enough to do. And what the president then asked us to do was say, okay, given what you believe and what you believe, given what you've come together to share as a belief, it would be fair for people also be here. If we could agree, it would be fair if there was a way for other folks to come in here, given our restrictions. Then the president said, merely ask each group, what do you want and what are you willing to give? What do you want and what you're willing to give? And then I've got somebody who wants to be close to me next door, and I prefer them not be there. But can I live with the truth that this was developed as a church property for church purposes? The property sold that way. It's intended to folks that feel the way we feel to be here. Do I need to compromise what is true that I believe I'd like to have type of something?
Well, let me suggest that that can be handled as we talked about. Number one, two ways. That's a lot of that is the lots up in that area near the top, which we want to have a totally new zone. Number two, as we discussed on the setback, you could go for a conditional use or a variance. And there is a procedure to do that.
That's right. And that goes to the second or the other of my 50 years of experience. And that is that, and I've mentioned this, but most folks, they're going to go by what is written. They don't like to risk asking and begging and going for a committee of strangers for permission to live here. And that then perhaps transfers the liability to us to be bold enough to go ahead and say, given if it was true, that we really ought to figure out a way these undeveloped lots could be more reasonably
Well, what would you propose if you were thinking, you write a law yourself, you propose to go to 25, 20? What do you?
I would propose that on areas where the lots have difficult setback, South Carolina Terrace, West Virginia Terrace, Maryland, and so forth, that where those conditions exist, that the setbacks would be reduced to 10 feet to 15 feet, whatever we could live with. So that it's in the ordinance that lots in this area can be built.
You know, varying all over town, depending on how it's currently.
We would, and we wouldn't win the argument as long as the people who aren't here didn't have some representation in the room. In other words, my own family would would vote to allow, I don't want somebody next door. But what is our obligation to figure out some way, other than begging, to be able to use these other lots to be neighbors?
But I'm trying to get my head around. I'm hearing you, I'm trying to be sympathetic to what you're saying, and I have some interest in it because we've talked before, I had a real problem doing an addition to our house a few years back, 5 or 6 years back, because the 30-foot zoning runs through the middle of my house. It was built long before the zoning ordinance was adopted. And I said for years, everybody listened to me, that was just kind of ridiculous, adopting a 30-foot setback. Maybe the majority of the houses in Montreal were in violation when it was passed. And that just seemed kind of wrong, and I was kind of the mindset it should have been 25 or 20 or something, right around town. So I'm sympathetic to you, but I'm trying to get down on what it is exactly proposing. What I just heard you say is you have different setbacks all over town. You would have R1, R2, R3. You set up street setbacks. Formalize it for me so I understand what you're proposing. And you mentioned earlier, you said something about these setbacks are impossible where you have steep lots. Well, does the hillside or steep slope help you a little bit in some of those situations?
In some of them.
And we're gonna take that up now. That is a logical place to do it.
But it doesn't help in all of them. It wouldn't help me.
Sure.
So, and not only does it create problems for people building these lots or make it easier for them to build the lots, and let's say we were to reduce it 15 feet, just to throw it out. It's also going to impact people like me. It would make it easier for me to put an addition on my house now, because I couldn't before, and what I wanted to do because I was in the setback. And the zoning administrator wouldn't let me do it, and he was probably right based on what I read at that time. So if we lower it, we're not only lowering it for the people who will build on currently undeveloped lots, it would enable more construction within that section that would now open up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So not only could undeveloped lots be built upon, but people who have built upon lots that are in the setback now might not be in the setback then, so all of a sudden they can maybe add an addition that they put in before. I'm just making you aware, there's a lot of ramifications.
And the issue that you confounds me is, I happen to know that won't hurt.
That what?
That won't hurt. That
I'm not saying
the
that.
front yard additions don't hurt us.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just
And
saying
you better all through monitoring the ins and outs are part of the success of it. But I was giving up on my ability to sell this irregularity that's actually part of our beauty. I'm just coming back to what I learned from Jim Carter. There's another truth out there, and that is folks would like to be here, but can't be here because of these ordinances. And what are we willing to give sacrifice? If we had a community meeting, everybody was here, we said, God created this place, put this place, and all this sort of stuff. We would need to make some sacrifices if we would let other folks come in. It might be that the crowd would say, I'm okay. But we just have to be challenged and ask the question.
Well, I think that you can deal with that, and I hear you, I sympathize too. I think our view was not to change the setbacks. So I think if you might want to, and you don't have a specific proposal, so it might be then that when the town council considers all this, they'll have to have meetings, and people can come and talk about it. But I've seen no push for any change in the setbacks other than in the newer areas like the people who wrote that sort of thing. So I think, I don't see us having a community meeting to talk about that.
I was using as an example that the community is the only way we would get those who are not here and sort of present their cases. And what about people? People feel what you think.
not to disagree with you, I do have a little sympathy. But I need something to consider. As I say, was I'm also mindful of what Frank Dodson said in this letter, we're changing the rules now. A lot of people have built in that 30 foot, 50 years, how long, 40 years. It is a fair amount of change to make it easier, and they'll say, no, it's going to be that out of the way. Here's a built a bigger house in a different location. That comes into play too. But I'm willing to listen to a proposal. I mean, anybody else? Maybe it's accepted. I'm the only voice with Wayne today. I'm not saying I agree with what you have to say.
But you see, Mr. Dodson's point was really good because that's what we had to deal with in the collaboration center, is that point had to be valid. It's the truth. We'd like it to stay the same way. Nobody wants change. But then the next piece is, well, what's fair?
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we ask you to come up with a specific proposal that we can consider from a substantive perspective at our next meeting and on the issue of front yard setbacks.
At the beginning of all this, I put together a spreadsheet of setbacks for similar municipalities across the state. There are like 15 of them. I don't know if it would help you to look at that again and kind of see, because they're different.
Yeah, and particularly setbacks for hilly.
Yeah.
Sparkle.
So let's put that on the agenda. Front yard setback.
Maybe what's down, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts.
Well, I think this is the time to have the discussion. I mean, that's what we're here for. I think all of us don't want to do is to go back through this document again for an hour and a half.
And it was too cold in here to sleep.
Right. So if you want to come up with a specific written proposal that we can get out ahead of time, it's very specific. And I think that we're all of us are accepting here.
And I would love anybody who's interested to talk about it.
Okay. Next meeting, August 25th, is that okay with everybody?
August 25th is the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks from today.
25th or 26th?
25th. 25th.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Second. And again, I want to thank you all. I think this was very tedious, but hopefully we're going through that part of it. And we should get this on